First and foremost, call Haloim La. All praises to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakha Kodash. Double honor to the apostles, the elders of Great Millstone, who still rule and teach well. Peace, blessings, and safety unto the Lord's elect. And I'm not sure the title I'm going to give it, but pretty much I want to go into the fact that, asking for permission or having to have these devils' permission or license to do things is going to be a thing of the past, because the Lord is going to grant us true freedom. The scriptures say in Jeremiah the 30th chapter that he shall break these bands asunder. So the physical chains, the paper chains, the adhesion contracts that this devil has us under, you got to have permission to drive. You got to have permission to use somebody's video. Just as something as simple as saying fair use, fair use. We're not going to have to do none of this shit. Permission is going to be a thing of the past. The Israelites ain't going to ask permission for nothing in the kingdom of heaven. We're going to do exactly what we want to do, when we want to do it, how we want to do it, and ain't nobody going to be able to stop us. We're going to be an unstoppable force in the kingdom of heaven. And we're going to do exactly what we want to do anytime we want to do it. Let me look at the definition of permission, because the Lord is about to do away with it. We're not going to have to ask you heathen and you devils for permission to do anything. And you won't dare ask us permission to do anything. It says the act of permitting, authorization. Of course, I got to add. Let's look up permitting. To consent to expressively or formally. To give leave. Authorize. To make possible. To give an opportunity. Allow. So we're not going to have to rely on this devil to allow us to do anything, because going all the way back 2,000 years ago, we've always had to ask these devils for permission. Even something like the death of Yahweh Shai, the death and resurrection of Yahweh Shai, the Israelites at that time, they had to ask for permission from the Romans to put them to death. Okay? And I'm going to read that at St. John chapter 18 and verse 29. It says, Pilate then went out unto them and said, What accusation bring ye against this man? They answered and said unto him, If he were not a malefactor, we would not have delivered him up unto thee. Meaning, if he weren't a criminal. Verse 31, Then said Pilate unto them, Take ye him, and judge him according to your law. See, that's what we're going to do in the kingdom. We're going to judge according to our law. We're not going to have to ask for permission. Esau, you swear on the Bible, but you cast the words of the Bible behind you when it's time to really judge. You swear on the Bible, but when it's time for a Mo to be punished, you give him rights. When it's time for an adulterer to be punished, you give him rights. You promote the music, and so Pontius Pilate is saying, look, judge him according to your law. But watch what the Israelites' response is. Then said Pilate unto them, Take ye him, and judge him according to your law. The Jews therefore said unto him, It is not lawful for us to put any man to death. The reason why they said this is because the Jews were under Roman jurisdiction. And so this is how, as it says in verse 32, that the saying of Yahweh Shai might be fulfilled, which he spake, signifying what death he should die. Right. So he had to be handed over into the hands of the Romans so that he could be crucified, because that was the death that he was prophesied to die. Okay? He was said to be betrayed. Let me see. That's St. John 8:8, I believe. St. John, what is that? St. John. So the Son of Man must be betrayed. Okay, Matthew 26:2. It says, Ye know that after 2 days is the feast of the Passover, and the Son of Man is betrayed to be crucified. You see? So that whole dynamic of the Romans ruling over, occupying Jerusalem, Judea at the time. I forget which Herod was over Judea, but that was because the prophecy, as well as the fact that, like I said, we've been having to ask these devils for permission for a long damn time. But the days of asking you devils for permission is over. As soon as we get them new bodies, as soon as Yahweh Shai come back, we're going to do what we want to do, and nobody can stop us. It says here in Revelation chapter 2 and verse 26, and he that overcometh and keepeth my works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations. And he shall rule them with a rod of iron. As the vessels of a potter shall they be broken to shivers, even as I received of my Father. So now let's go to the word power to see what type of power this is. The word I think is exousia.
Strong's G, 1849, exousia. Exousia.
Exousia is the Greek word. It says power of choice, liberty of doing as one pleases, leave or permission. Ooh, I didn't know I was going to say that. So we're going to have permission and power and leave to do as we please. And it's going to be a complete and total righteousness, because it's going to be impossible for us to sin. Therefore, there will be no ability to raise a complaint or to cry out in righteousness, because everything we're going to be doing is going to be completely and utter righteous. It's going to be a righteous oppression. Wrap your head around that. It says physical and mental power. So we're going to be able to read minds. We're going to be able to move things with our mind. We're going to have mental power. The ability or strength with which one is endued, which he possesses or exercises. The power of authority, influence, and of privilege. We're going to do what we want to do, man. We're not going to have to ask you devils for permission. We're not going to have to ask you devils, can I collect rainwater? Can I plant this seed here? Can I sell this product? You got to ask the devil permission to do all that shit. It says that in Deuteronomy 28 that we shall go to him for the one of all things. Those days is coming to an end. You're not going to have that grip over us anymore. It says the power of rule or government. Power of him whose will and commands must be submitted to by others and obeyed. Woo! You're going to do what we say. Like the apostle said, if we tell you you're going to work 18 hours a day, you're going to do it, bitch. And you ain't going to have no problems with it. Because if you got a problem, then I'm going to fix it. I'm going to fix it with my rod of iron. So literally, the power to do whatever you want. It says universally authority over mankind. The power of judicial decisions. Nobody gonna have something to say about the judgments that we bring down. When we say somebody got to get put to death, ain't nobody gonna have an issue with it. Ain't nobody gonna have nothing to say. No protest. No reconsidering the decision. No overturning the decision. None of that shit that you do in this kingdom. The power of judicial decisions. Authority to manage domestic affairs. Metonymically, a thing subject to authority. So yeah, you're going to be subject to our authority. Down here it says superhuman. Superhuman power, without restriction, without the need of permission. It's not going to be good for you Edomites. It's not going to be pleasant. This is Isaiah chapter 14 verse 2. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place. And the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids. And they shall take them captives whose captives they were. And they shall rule over their oppressors. So we're going to rule over our oppressors, and we're going to do what we want with you. You was oppressing us. We had to ask you for permission to do every goddamn thing. We had to beg you for food stamps and this and that. We ain't going to have to do none of that anymore. It says, and it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow and from thy fear and from the hard bondage wherein thou was made to serve. Right, that's all that oppression and him ruling over us and us having to ask for permission and you constantly harassing and wearing out the saints of the Most High. Those days are over. It's coming to an end, and you can feel it, Esau. You know it's coming to an end. The Lord is turning our captivity because he's turning us to the truth of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. The prophecies are being fulfilled. You're about to come with your microchip because you're desperate. And once you do that, the hour of temptation begins. But the hour of temptation is not going to be long. The Lord's going to come back in the midst and deliver us and put you in bondage under our feet. I wish I would ask somebody who's under my feet for permission to do anything, or even to consider your feelings or your thoughts. It's not even going to be a thought or consideration, man. The Lord's going to put a cold spirit on us. But we don't give a fuck about feelings, emotions, pain, none of that. Because you're going to feel it. Jeremiah chapter 30 and verse 8. For it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai of hosts, that I will break his yoke from off thy neck, and burst thy bands asunder, Slakia, and will burst thy bonds, and strangers shall no more serve themselves of him. So you heathen, you're not gonna use us and abuse us and serve yourselves with us anymore. We're not your personal servants. We're sovereigns. We're Yah Shar Allah. Yah meaning he, Shar meaning prince, Allah meaning God. We are the princes and sons of God. We are a nation of kings and priests. But for a period of over 1,000 years, you've treated us, I'll say 500 years, you've treated us as if we're the heathen and you're the kings. No. You're the heathen, we're the kings, and the Lord is about to establish the order once again. Psalms chapter 149, verse 6. It says, verse 5, it says, verse 4, it says, for the Lord Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai taketh pleasure in his people. Whose people? His people. Not all people? No, not all people. His people. Who are his people? The Israelites. For the Lord taketh pleasure in his people. He will beautify the meek with salvation. Let the saints be joyful in glory. Let them sing aloud upon their beds. Because we're going to get rest. We ain't going to have to wake up to the sound of an alarm clock. If you don't clock in by this time, if you a second late 5 times, I'm gonna fire you, and you're gonna have to figure out how you're gonna feed your family. Nah, the day all that shit is gonna be over with, man. We're gonna sing aloud upon our beds because we gonna wake up when we wanna wake up. We're gonna sleep however long we wanna sleep. The kingdom is gonna be a beautiful thing because we're not gonna have any the restrictions of this world. It's a spirit that's presseth down the soul, like it says in Wisdom of Solomon. Just the fact that you are held to these standards and these guidelines of, like I said, just waking up. Something as simple as having to wake up at 6 a.m. every day to clock in. That burden not being on you is going to do something to your spirit, man. That's why it says, let the saints be joyful in glory. Let them sing aloud upon their beds. Let the high praises of the Most High be in their mouth. We're gonna be singing and quoting the scriptures. We're gonna be singing the Psalms. We're gonna be quoting the scriptures. It says, and a two-edged sword in their hand. We're gonna have a sword in our hand, and we're gonna be reciting scriptures like we shall wash our feet in the blood of the wicked, while we wash our feet in the blood of the wicked. It says to execute vengeance upon the heathen and punishments upon the people. To bind their kings with chains and their nobles with fetters of iron. Why? Because they ain't noble anyway. They was just servants upon horses. And we were princes walking as servants upon the earth. To execute upon them the judgment written. This honor have all his saints. Praise ye Yahweh Shem Yahushua. That's what we're looking for. That's what's coming. Lord, when this is edifying, I want us to give all praise, all honor, and all glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem Rechak Wadash, Brother Yaquam Kom Yashram. Shalom.